Hello, friends, and welcome to We. With us, you win. In this channel, we prepare you for your future in the field of English literature. And this special video is a very general video for a very special, specific kind of purpose. That is increasing the level of your knowledge in English literature, how it is done, and what are the benefits. When you increase the level of your knowledge in English literature, not only do you benefit directly in your marks and that is reflected on your mark sheets of MA and BA, but also after your MA and class, the very important step, the next step is NTA-NET in English literature. And the direct bearing of this enhancement of your knowledge level will be on your score of NTA-NET or JRF. And after that, of course, you will go for jobs, interviews, written examinations. For example, Uttar Pradesh Higher Education Service Commission, the exam is coming right in front of us. The Government Degree College of UP, also the exam is coming in the next year. So when your knowledge level is enhanced, your confidence is boosted, and then you definitely perform better and produce better results. Before we go any further, let me tell you why am I, the right kind of person who should talk about this, and why should you be listening to me, right? So to begin with, I am what you may call, at least partially, an outsider. I did my BSc and MSc in agriculture from Institute of Agricultural Sciences, Banaras in the university. After which I worked for a couple of years here and there. And then I decided, after a thorough introspection and analysis, that English language and literature was the field in which I wanted to make my name. It was the one gift that I had. It was the one thing that gave me joy. So I then did my MA from IGNOU and my PhD and NET, UGC-NET were in the same year, 2011. So, because I did not have any formal education before my MA from IGNOU, therefore, I call myself, and some other people also call me, half an outsider. Let it be then. So, even after being half an outsider, I taught myself well. I raised my level of knowledge in English literature, and then I cleared subjective net. Back then, it was subjective net, the third paper. Also, I cleared Uttar Pradesh Higher Education exam twice at 2046. Then I joined also, and 50, which I did not join for some reasons. So, I think that I've earned some right to share my experience with you, to give you advice. So I begin with what I experienced, and I begin with my list of books. So the first thing that we are going to talk about is the books that I studied in history of English literature, in criticism, in theory, in and the glossary, of course, and a couple of anthologies. So we'll start with, of course, the beginning, the very beginning, which is history of English literature. In this case, I must underline of uh, English literature as in the United Kingdoms, the literature, the English literature of United Kingdom, because there are so many Englishes, right? And at least a couple of them are in our syllabus. So specifically talking, I am talking about the English literature that belongs to a specific area of the globe. And I began with William J. Long, of course, the easiest possible language and the most primary book. Hudson, some people prefer Hudson, but call it an accident. William J. Long was the first ever book, textbook that is, that I bought in English, and that was my beginning, my initiation, if you want, into history of English literature, and it is wonderful for a beginner like me. I could not have chosen. I did not choose it, of course. But it was an accident, I'm telling you, but I could not have chosen better because it makes you fall in love with the persons that you are reading about. It makes you know about them as human beings, their aspirations, their strengths, their weaknesses, and it introduces you to the world of literature with a very enthusiastic point of view, which now, theoretically speaking, is very naive. But for a beginner and for an introductory level person, it was wonderful. It worked for me. I learned when I was revising it, and when I was, you may call it, towards the peak before UGC-NET examination, I nearly, almost had the whole book in my brain, hard disk. I did not need to make notes from William J. Long, because the whole William J. Long, almost the pages, the images, the information, the tables, it was in my mind. Almost, yeah, awesome. Almost it was in there. So MH Abrams became my notes. And then, of course, I added material from, and I learned a lot from Andrew Sanders. These two. I bought David Deshay, but I could not complete it. Before that, my net exam was over. I was selected already. For I once, yes, I read a little bit. E. Albert also. Uh, Compton Ricket I had. R.D. Trivedi I touched and left. But it was because of William J. Long and Andrew Sanders that uh, my British English literature, if you want, became strong. And mind you, I had only started reading it in my MA classes. I had no BA in English. The second step is then to talk about literary criticism, mainstream literary criticism. I am going to prescribe the one book that I read from. It's a wonderful book, and one more wonderful thing about it is not very voluminous, but to the point and complete. That is Harry Blamires' History of Literary Criticism. Harry Blamires, I repeat, wonderful book. Along with that, you need a glossary. And the moment I spell the word Glossary, the one name that comes to my mind is M.H. Abrams. So, of course, the Glossary of Literary Terms by M.H. Abrams it's a must-have for any student of English literature, BA, MA, PhD, whatever your level is, you're preparing for NET, or you're preparing for any competitive examination or assistant professorship. M.H. Abrams must be printed in your mind. Okay, so yeah, MH Abrams, and you must reach a position in which all the definitions and the examples and all the major pages. In fact, I have a list of the number of pages. Someone told me that the total number that I have in my list is 116 pages. So that's almost 1/4 of the total number of pages in MH Abrams. I'm talking about the 10th edition. So 116 pages printed in your mind. How about theory then? Of course, we have to gain depth in theory. And of course, we'll begin with Peter Barry. That is the one book, it's revolutionary kind of book. It does not aim to teach you facts. It does not aim to teach you names of books, although it does. The emphasis here is to make the concept clear, to give you hands on training in application of what you have read as the names of theory, and that too with so many examples and so many practices. So, like others, I also very strongly recommend that you take Peter Barry very seriously and you cover it religiously. It's a wonderful book. You may not meet lines from Peter Barry directly in UGC-NET or NTA-NET and other kind of examination papers, but this one is going to create a kind of framework in your mind in which all the other things will be very easily arranged. It will clear your concept. So Peter Barry is a must. And then a very wonderful book is Nayar's Literary and Cultural Theory, and very up to date also. So you begin with Peter Barry and finish it up with Nayar's Literary and Cultural Theory. And finally, we have reached the anthologies or the readers. Personally, I'm going to say that David Lodge is good. So 20th century literary criticism and modern criticism and theory, both the books, you must have them. Of course, even if you don't have them and you have covered your MA syllabus well, your job is done, because uh, the major, the canonical writers and theorists and critics, they're all prescribed in your MA syllabi. But then you can always augment what you have already read with these two readers. Some people talk about KM Newton, but because I had them and I read from them and prepared from them, therefore I can only talk about what I learned from. So this is my method, my system. This is not the system. This is one of the systems, my system, and it worked well for me. So I think it can work well for you also. But then you can always make your own alterations, tweaking. And then one book that I must mention that made me fall in love with poetry was F.T. Palgrave's Golden Treasury. It may sound as outdated as William J. Long, but it does its job and very wonderfully. It gives you a good introduction to the music of poetry. Palgrave mentions in the introduction that the musicality of the poems that are selected was checked by none other than Tennyson himself, the poet laureate. And whatever people criticize Tennyson for, nobody, and I repeat, nobody says that he was not musical. So the quality of sound, the lyricism, if you want, is totally there in those lyrics. And longer poems, of course, you had in your syllabus, so you would have read them. But this is a good coverage of many pieces. Of course, there is a lot of politics involved, but it worked for me, and it gave me the love that I have for romantic poetry. So go for it, man. Go by all means for it. I hope you have liked what I have talked about. You may have agreed, you may not have agreed, and I'm open to discussion. So, you stay in touch. Of course, if you have liked it, then click at the like button down there. Subscribe so that we can stay connected. There are other ways of staying connected. My mail ID is in the description box. I have a Telegram channel in which I keep uploading material. There is a blog specifically for competitive examination purpose, and of course, there is a Facebook group also. So there are also very many means of connecting with me. So stay connected, and your feedback is very much welcome. It helps me always to improve. That you can give in comment section and mail me straight. Stay connected.